I welcome you to the Word of God of the 27th Sunday in Ordinary Time UC. On today's readings, talk so much about faith. Faith that is as little as the mustard seed is enough to do wonders. It's enough to trust God. It's enough to believe God. According to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, faith is a supernatural gift from God, which enables us to believe without doubt what God has revealed. Itself is a gift from God, a gift which makes us to trust God, to be confident that whatever God says will be as He has said it. And we see His saying in the Gospel when the disciples asked Him to increase their faith, that He said, if your faith is as big as a mustard seed, you can then tell this mulberry tree to be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it will obey you. In the Pauline writings, faith is not just an intellectual acceptance of what God has said or the doctrines of the church. Faith is a commitment, it's a life of commitment to God's invitation to participate in Him, with Him, and then to trust Him no matter what is happening. In the first reading, we see a lack of that faith in the prophecy of Habakkuk. Habakkuk lived at a very difficult moment in the history of the people of Israel when they waged wars with other nations around them. Injustice was everywhere. A lot of challenges, difficulties, sufferings. And with this, we see his lamentation to the extent that he had to complain against God. He cried out, "How long, Lord, am I to cry for help while you will not listen? To cry oppression in your ear, and you will not save." The feeling of Habakkuk the prophet is the feeling of many of us. When we think that God is impotent, God has abandoned us, what is the need to still trust God, to believe Him when He seems far from us? When we look around, we see the ungodly, the unjust, those we consider as unrighteous, striving. And here we are striving to keep faith, and things are even more difficult for us. That was the experience of Habakkuk. For how long? So the condition when the prophet wrote is not different from our time. We look around, evil everywhere, wars, injustice, maltreatment of the just. Where is God? Why has God allowed this to happen? But God always responds to us at the appropriate time. He responded to the prophet, and in his response, he said, "Write the vision down, inscribe it on tablets to be easily read. This vision is for its own time, eager for its own fulfillment. It does not deceive. If it comes slowly, wait, for come it will. without fail. I think this is where the problem lies. We want to rush God. God's ways are not our ways. God gives us time. He's patient with us. But we shouldn't take his patience for granted. He doesn't force us either. The response to the prophet is a very wonderful response that when we internalize it, then it will help us to become patient with ourselves and with God. Write it down. If it comes slowly, wait, for come it will without fail. We already said that faith makes us to believe God, to trust God without doubt. But another aspect of that patience is that faith is that it's patient. It's patient. Faith is patient, that which comes for the reality of waiting patiently in hope. God, being infinite, sees beyond us. He knows. He waits. So we need that faith to accept, to believe, to wait on the Lord. Maybe we always ask, like the apostles, increase our faith. But the truth is that we don't need to increase our faith for us to put it to use. It increases, it enlarges, it matures, it develops when we begin to use the faith that God has given us, the little we have. Increase our faith. Their thought is that their faith was not big enough for the work that God has entrusted into their care. But it's not true. The faith is enough to carry on. But we need to accept the faith given to us and then put it to use. Sometimes we tend to blame God that our faith is not strong enough for us to use. No, it is. Begin now. That is what Jesus is telling us. That is what St. Paul is saying in the second reading, the letter to Timothy. Fan into flame the gift of God, the gift of faith that I gave to you, that you received when I laid my hands upon you. Fan it into flame. Begin now. Do not wait any longer. Do not complain. We complain. We don't use what God has given us, and we are asking for more. It doesn't work that way. We have to show that we are trustworthy with the little we have before he gives us something greater. And he is always generous enough, always willing. But we have to use what he has given us. We must not wait for increase of faith before we put you to use the one we have. And faith takes a gradual process to grow. So this is the challenge today. God has given us what it takes. God has gifted us with the gift of faith. What do you use? What do you do with the faith he has given you? We will all account for it at the appropriate time. Make use of the faith God has given you. And remember that his words, his promises will come to fulfillment. Even if they delay, wait, for surely they will come to pass.